this tiny board taught me a big lesson. I got overconfident, cocky. I thought I could skip a step and build a final form factor board for my product. Instead, it works like a coaster. The board comes like this, and then I assemble the daughter board on top. You break these pieces. I am breaking my coaster for this video. My very expensive coaster. And then you're left with this tiny board, a lot of the very small components. So a lot of the 0402 components are already soldered. That's how I ordered them. And I was going to solder the big daughter board. Let me walk you through how I went about prototyping and the mistakes I made. So first I started with the silicon Witchery board. It's open source. It has NRF52840, which is a microcontroller that I was interested in using. This is their board. It's pretty well designed. It has everything. It has a battery, power management, IC. It's also designed for ECG. It's got charging and everything, and you can see where I have tried to modify it. So it felt like it had everything I needed. That's why I started with it. But the problem was customizing it for EMG from ECG took way longer than I expected. The firmware was quite complex. Firmware is always complex. But this one was taking too long, and it was too complex for that stage of the project. The next thing I did was I grabbed a SparkFun board. Now again, that is also designed for ECG, but ECG and EMG circuits are similar enough where if you can modify the gain on the amplifier and modify the frequency filters, you can sort of use an ECG circuit to measure EMG. Then I started using this SparkFun board designed for ECG and added another board from Seeeduino that includes an NRF52840. This is a microcontroller that I want to use. It also has a Bluetooth antenna and the charging circuitry built in. So I kind of wanted to test if I could modify the SparkFun board enough to make EMG work and send it over BLE to my phone or computer so I could process it there. And I got a clean EMG signal on my computer. Success. That's when I got cocky. Instead of taking that circuit and designing a large proof of concept board where I could still test things, still modify things, still debug things, I was like, no, everything works. I'm just going to build a final form factor board like this. But you see how tiny these 0402 components are? These ones? When this board didn't work, there's nothing I can do about it. Like, I can't debug it. I cannot swap them out. I can barely even probe the edge of a resistor. So I basically made a black box that doesn't work. And then I had to retreat. Let me show you what this board looks like without all these things that I've stuck on them. The battery goes here, and I put my sort of Seeeduino daughter board over here. And I have them assemble mostly everything on one side. I have a bunch of test points everywhere, which is why I'm able to take that board and turn it into something that looks like this and make sure it's working. Only when I'm sure that I have made all modifications and validated everything works on this board will I move forward to design my form factor board. So what's next for me? I just got these boards back, and as you can see, I'm already modifying some of the components that I'd initially designed into the board. But hey, that's the point of this board. I'll be testing power consumption, battery life, adding buttons, LEDs, perfecting at least all the unknown parts of the firmware, and only then will I go to the next stage, which would be the EVT stage. Once everything works on this, proof of concept stage would be complete. This wraps up my 5-part video series on starting my hardware company. I made this video series because I was at a natural break point because my POC board was getting built. Over the next few months, I'll be getting this proof of concept working, designing my form factor board for the EVT build next, finding manufacturers, and eventually launching the product. If you found these videos useful, do share it with someone who may be curious about building a hardware product. And again, let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts or questions about other parts of the hardware building journey for future video topics.